Hey guys, Adam Mena here, Business of Strength. So welcome to another installment of our programming series here. So this is 3 ways to organize your training, right? And now I see a lot of things where people get too into the weeds and they're extremely smart, they're extremely intelligent in their approach and how they think about developing people. However, you need to organize this training because you need to make it repeatable, right? Therefore, you can't quantify your own success. I understand that N equals 1. We know that every individual responds differently to training, but there has to be a given set of metrics that you can improve upon week after week, month after month, year after year to see if your actual inputs are improving over time. And we also know about delivery. We need to ensure that we're delivering a high-level session because the variables remain relatively the same. And especially if you're a manager, if you're a business owner, and you have these training systems in place, how are you going to get other coaches to get on board with you to be able to deliver the almost same training service as you? Maybe not to the full of your ability, but again, it does not matter. We need to ensure that all of our coaches know how to train athletes, whether they're youth, whether they're high-level pros, whether they're everyday individuals looking to improve their performance. So here are 3 ways to organize this training. Number 1, you have to define your desired outcome. We talked about in the previous video, understanding, okay, what is the desired outcome? How do I align my training with my business model? And that is super important. A lot of times, again, you're bleeding energy, you're all over the place, you're not focused, you're spending hours and hours and hours and hours writing programming, which is fine unless there's a special case. Otherwise, what is the framework that you are using to be able to instill into the individuals that you work with? So we're defining the desired outcome. That comes down to a couple things here. Number 1, what does your training model look like? So here's an example of something that we use. With our athletes, we know there's 52 weeks in the year, so we segregate that into 4 13-week blocks. This would work as a preseason, an in-season, a postseason, and a true off-season. This is going to undulate for different individuals that you work with, but it provides the context, and now we need to fill in the rest here. So here's an example of a 13-week block that we use, right? No matter what the phase is, we might change the volume, the intensity, and the exercises based upon what phase of the athlete is training in terms of their season, who we are working with, the individual's ability, all these different things that play a role, but the construct remains the same. So here's the example, weeks 1 and 2. We call it acclimation weeks. So these are the first 2 weeks where they're coming in. We're working with these individuals, knowing their names. We're seeing, right, how do they respond to training? What does their work capacity look like? And it also is a great opportunity to build confidence in the individuals that we're working with and buy-in, relationship, and a little bit of rapport. Now, as we head into week 3, this is testing. This isn't a balls to the wall, we're going to play the music, go crazy kind of testing. This is more so we need to see where your baseline is. So for our strength, we have certain metrics. For our speed, we have certain metrics and we use our data there. And then for movement, we test certain movement qualities. Now, it's important to note that we know that if this individual maybe is a youth athlete, they don't need a real movement assessment. If they're very small, they haven't experienced a lot of stress, they also aren't going to show a lot of patterns of compensation. So we adjust the test to the individual. We don't adjust the individual to our testing. Weeks 4 through 6 is developmental. Weeks 7 through 9 is realization. So we're building upon the volume on that phase. Then we peak, we take a low stress if needed, and then we retest. Again, we use a lot of different undulating periodization, so we might have individuals, right, who are doing some hypertrophy work as well as strength work as well as more dynamic work, but it falls within the line of what is the goal and what are we trying to get the outcome here, because we are trying to improve upon, right, our tests to ensure that that individual is getting better. But it is always subject to change. So you have to keep that in mind. But what is the construct? What is the framework? And then you fill in the blanks. This has allowed us to streamline our training to make it congruent with our business model. So we have predictable and measured success like we talked about in our previous video. Lastly, see here, this is categorization. So here are 5 points, and this isn't all of them, but I wanted to keep it concise because I want you guys to be able to walk away with something tangible, right, moving down the road. So number 1, identifying who these individuals are, novice or advanced. This will determine their tests. This will determine how we organize them within a session working with other kids. Weeks 1 through, are they coming 1 or 4 times a week? Training template for each day, defining the metrics like we talked about, as well as defining delivery. Can you, the orchestrator, allow your coaches to implement the exact same session to get the exact same results?